All right, chat. James Cameron is a billionaire. That being said, he also likes to make fun of dead billionaires. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Praxis. So he's back. He wants to make fun of the billionaire sub implosion more. This is a brand new video, chat, from Australian 60 Minutes. So we're going to sit back. It's Friday, baby. It's Friday. It's fun day. We're going to celebrate. We're going to enjoy ourselves, okay? Let's fucking go.
Coming up.
I've broken some rules to make this. Carbon fiber and titanium. There's a rule you don't do that. Well, I did.
You don't move fast and break things if the thing you're going to break has got you inside it.
Not what we thought. A year on from the Titan tragedy,
We knew right where the sub was.
James Cameron reveals
Tapping sounds. Tapping sounds ridiculous.
what really happened at the bottom of the ocean.
The entire world waiting with bated breath.
I love him.
We all knew they were dead.
So the Coast Guard lied. That's next on 60 Minutes.
He fucking rules.
If there's
dude.
one small comfort to be taken from the Oceangate deep-sea submersible disaster, it's that death was instant for the 5 occupants on board. But a year on from the tragedy, there are still so many unanswered questions, like why the strange-looking craft on a mission to the wreck of the Titanic catastrophically imploded, and why, for days on end, was the world led to believe there was hope for a successful rescue mission.
Because we'd rather spend millions of dollars on dead billionaire corpses than we would providing housing for the 500 to 650,000 Americans sleeping on the street. Because our society is perverted, our society is fucking stupid, our leadership sucks, and I hate it.
The lack of credible information about
By the way, there wasn't even remains. I mean, they were pulverized into goo and they were consumed by sea life. Like, did they even find any body parts? I guess we'll find out from our friend James Cameron.
really happened is now becoming increasingly unfathomable, not only for other undersea explorers like Hollywood icon James Cameron, but also for the families of the victims.
It's in my home, but it's in a box because I don't want to see it every day because it's make me remember this bad moment.
It might not look like much, but this shriveled styrofoam cup holds more meaning than most of us can fathom. For Sidonie Nargiole, it's a treasured trophy.
She was on the sub and her styrofoam cup deflated on that sub. And she's like, it could have been me.
The only remaining evidence of her father's final adventure to the wreck of the Titanic. It must be so special for you to have that cup.
Yeah, it's very special because it was with my dad to his last moment.
Wait, they found the cup? Yo, it's from the death dive? Oh, shit.
So, yeah, it's very special.
An avid
She's probably thinking of like the inheritance she got because her dad was rich. And she's like, he died and I'm young enough to be able to enjoy it.
deep sea explorer, Paul-Henri Nargiole, made a habit of taking decorated styrofoam cups on his missions to see them shrink under the pressure of descent. Remarkably, this one somehow survived the catastrophic implosion of the Titan, Oceangate's experimental submersible.
The all-out search for a missing submersible with 5 people on board leads to a tragic discovery.
What?
And there are no survivors.
No
1
shit.
year on, Sidonie is still desperate for answers, but she's never...
The answers aren't very complicated. James Cameron, will you... I love James Cameron. I love him. I love him. I love him. This is how he acted with the daughter of the dead. I love him. He's so awesome. He's so cool. Avatar is a great movie. He's so cool. He's so fucking cool. Oh god, I can't wait. I can't wait. He's gonna dunk. He's gonna dunk on her dead dad. I fucking love him. Let's go. Oh god, James. We need you, James.
Heard from Oceangate.
He's so cool.
They still haven't contacted you to give condolences or explain what happened?
Nothing from them. No condolences.
Sue
No,
them!
we are sorry. Nothing.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
guys broke the rules. It's that simple. They should not have been legally allowed to carry passengers.
James Cameron
Well,
is furious.
they were libertarians, and they were in the international waters. Nobody can enforce rules on me. I'm in international waters. Oops, I just got exploded.
His friend, Sydney's dad, Paul Henri, should be alive today.
I got him and he got me.
Tonight, the legendary film director and Titanic expert is ready to set the record straight on the frenzied search mission.
Running all over the surface, the entire world, waiting with bated breath, talking about 96 hours of oxygen. We all knew they were dead.
And why, despite 5 active investigations, the world is still waiting for answers.
I think they went by a procedure that was torturous for the family.
Seeing her coming out of the darkness like a ghost ship still gets me every time.
James Cameron's knowledge of the deep goes far beyond his Oscar-winning picture.
Are you ready to go back to Titanic?
He's visited the Titanic wreck site 33 times and designed and piloted a submarine to the deepest known point on Earth.
I'm at the trench wall. I am working a steep rock cliff, over.
You've spent more time at the Titanic wreck than the actual captain spent on the ship.
Yeah, if you do the math, it actually is true.
Given his credentials, you'd think he'd be an obvious choice for investigators looking for expert advice on the Titan's ill-fated dive. And yet, Jim is still waiting for a phone call. What are you hearing about where the investigation is up to?
I've made myself available. I've volunteered to the investigative committee.
I love him so much. He's like, I was right there. I knew more than all the other idiots, and I was right there for them. And they didn't even call me. Like, what the fuck? Do you know who I am? JW, thanks for the tier 3.
The Coast Guard, nothing.
They haven't interviewed you?
I think they want to do things their way. And frankly, I think they've kind of got egg on their face, and they don't want outside opinions. That's just my interpretation.
It's a stunning claim from one of the world's leading experts in deep sea exploration.
See, the thing about James Cameron is he's one of those people that isn't an insane fascist. So, like, when he's building his sub, he's like, who is the best sub makers? Oh, it's the Soviet Union? Who makes the best submersibles? The Soviet Union? Okay, let's study their shit. And he's not like an ideological libertarian freak. He's an engineer. He's fascinated by the technical shit. He's not fascinated by the ideology. So he makes things that are technically sound because the laws of physics don't care what flag you're putting on your craft.
That was, almost a year ago, so
That's astonishing to me.
why listen to a scientist?
We've taken a completely new approach to the sub design, and it's all run with this game controller and these touch screens. So if you want to go forward, you press
That
forward.
game controller has stick drift, chat. The game controller has stick drift.
If you want to go back, you go back, turn left, turn right, go down, go up.
Oceangate's maverick CEO, Stockton Rush, pushed the limits of sense and safety while promising passengers an unforgettable adventure.
Oceangate Expeditions offers you the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be a specially trained crew member safely diving to the Titanic wreckage site.
The corporate video might sound enticing, but in reality, the Titan was an untested outlier. The only commercial submersible in the world with a hull made from carbon fibre composite, which industry experts agree is incapable of withstanding extreme deep sea pressure.
Because it's strong under tension, not under compression. It's strong under tension, not compression.
Result, the sub wasn't classed or certified.
You're remembered for the rules you break. And, you know, I've broken some rules to make this. Carbon fiber and titanium, there's a rule you don't do that. Well, I did.
He seemed to take a real pride in his unconventional approach, in breaking the rules.
Exactly, and I think this is a place where you've got to really know your stuff before you can step outside the box. You don't move fast and break things, as they say in Silicon Valley, if the thing you're going to break has got you inside it, along with other innocent people who believe your line of BS.
Yes, he dunked on her dad so hard. He was just like, this is so fucking good. I'm dying. I love him. Like, honestly, I like James Cameron. I do like James Cameron, even though I don't necessarily agree with him on everything. And he is a billionaire, but he's a billionaire because he's a weird nerd who made weird nerd movies that for some reason a lot of people went to watch. And you know what? You know what? That's cool. That's the best way to do things. Like, he made an artistic project and people gave him a bunch of money for it. You know what? I respect that. And he that's the other thing. It seems like he respects people based on their knowledge, not on their status. He seems like a really well-adjusted guy who seems cool. I actually like him.
On June 18 last year, Stockton Rush set off for the most famous shipwreck on Earth, with Paul-Henri Nargeolet as guide and 3 paying passengers: billionaire explorer Hamish Harding, Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood, and his teenage son Suleiman. But
Pakistani businessman. What they mean is imperialist collaborator with the British Empire who owns a bunch of sweatshops. Disgusting. Disgusting piece of shit.
2 hours.
Like, people were mad at me because I was laughing at the billionaires dying. Some like libs in the chat were like, that was a 18-year-old boy. You shouldn't be. Yeah. And I was like, that family is like one of the most evil families in the history of the world. Like, fuck them. It's funny. It's fucking funny.
To the dive on that Sunday, communication stopped and a media storm began.
Rescuers are racing to find the missing dive vessel.
But the U.S. Coast Guard is not letting up.
Well, we received a call in Boston the afternoon of the 18th. They had put a submersible down on the side of the Titanic, and they had lost communications earlier that day.
Captain Jamie Frederick knew right away the US Coast Guard was facing an unprecedented challenge.
Actually, he knew that. He's like, holy shit, we can get so many hours. Who needs hours? Do you need hours? Do you need hours? You want to fly the helicopter? You want to fly your planes? You want to fly the... we got the ship. We got so many hours. Hell yeah, baby. Let's go. Let's go. We get to sail our ship. Yeah. We get to get on TV. Who wants to be famous? Who wants to be famous? That's what he was thinking.
And had you ever received a call of that nature before?
No, it was certainly anomalous. In fact, I've been in the Coast Guard for just about 30 years, and I've never dealt with a subsurface search. It was challenging.
For the families of those on board, it was an unbearable weight, with only one thing keeping them going.
Guys, he's a career cop. What do you think the Coast Guard is? The Coast Guard are cops. That's their entire purpose. Now, they do rescue as well because, you know, it's the Coast Guard. So that's like their primary. They're not just going around being cops. And the people that they encounter are on boats, which overwhelmingly tend to be upper middle class people and above. So, you know, they tend to be more respectful of the people they encounter, unless they encounter a brown person.
With all the boats that came, all the people involved.
They're kind of like cops and firemen combined. True. I think that's fair. Which means they're not as bad as regular cops. But people are like, wow, that guy has cop phrenology. He's literally a cop.
Looking for them. I really had hope. I really thought they could find them.
And find them alive?
Yes, of course, I was thinking they would find them alive.
And for a couple of days there, a miracle seemed possible. Eerie echoes of banging noises picked up by sonar equipment lit a fuse under the search for the sub, painting a haunting picture of the 5 men trapped inside at the bottom of the ocean.
It just made such a beautiful media circus, you know, to talk about a race against time, these poor people, tapping sounds. Tapping sounds ridiculous.
James Cameron wasn't surprised at all when US Navy analysis found the banging noises weren't human and were most likely from the ocean or ships in the area.
They're hearing a little crescent wrench or something tapping against a hull over the sound of 11 ships operating in the immediate vicinity, moving giant pieces of deck equipment around.
Not possible.
You know, that's like, you know, hearing a sparrow fart over the cacophony of an airport.
So that whole thing was
maybe a
fiction.
metaphor you'll want to cut out.
That's a good metaphor.
It's a great metaphor, but you're saying that whole thing was fiction.
Well, we knew, I mean, my jaw literally dropped open farther and farther each day.
I love it. I love him so much. David Cameron, he's the king. He's the fucking king. He's the fucking king.
That they never cautioned everybody.
Coming up, the incredible rescue plans.
Once we connected to them, they were coming up.
And why the entire frenzy was pointless. Because, as you'll see, there was one critical piece of information the Coast Guard didn't share.
9:25, confirmed implosion. And I literally wrote that on the pad the moment I heard from my naval source.
So the Coast Guard lied. The saga of the missing Titan.
In case you're wondering, chat, sound is much more dominant in the ocean than it is in the air, which may surprise us because we communicate by talking. And so to us, and we listen to music and like, and to us, sound is very important, and it's, you know, an incredibly important sense in our ability to communicate with one another. Here's the thing about the ocean. It's even more dominant because sound travels faster and further. All right. And so you can get a lot of information, even more information through sound. So as an example, the US Navy has a bunch of secret microphones called hydrophones all throughout the ocean. And they exist so that they can hear nuclear submarines. So they could detect a fleet of nuclear submarines who might be coming to do a nuclear first strike on the United States. So something like a gigantic implosion is going to be picked up by these fucking microphones. They know. Whales communicate over hundreds of miles. Yeah, isn't that cool?
Submersible had all the making.
Mach is 1,700 meters a second underwater. It's only 330 in air. Yeah.
Of a Hollywood movie. Billionaire explorers missing on their way to the graveyard of a ship once thought to be unsinkable, with the clock ticking, oxygen running out, and the world watching.
I knew that this was going to be a big story.
Ed Cassano was ready to play the hero. His remotely operated deep-sea vehicle, the Odysseus 6, was the only submersible that would make it nearly 4 kilometres down to the Titanic site, and quickly. Did you at that point truly believe this was a rescue mission?
Absolutely.
4 days after the sub disappeared, and spurred on by reports of banging noises, Odysseus 6 descended through the cold, cruel depths of the North Atlantic Ocean with an incredible mission to tow them into safety.
The plan that we had,
ocean, it's big.
Once we plugged into the scene, was we would go to seafloor, we were rigged for heavy lift, we were going to connect onto the Titan submersible. Once we connected to them, they were coming up.
It would have been a miraculous survival story, But James Cameron says it was always fiction. Tonight revealing for the first time the moment he knew the Titan had suffered a catastrophic...
Does that mean if we gave people a Sandy Cheek style water helmet, it would work as a hearing aid? I am not informed enough about sound propagating through air than water to let you know if that could even work. So my answer is no, but again, no.
Implosion.
I just found this in my file. It says this is on Casa del Mar Stationery. That's the hotel I was in LA at the time that I heard about it. 9:25, that's AM, 9:25, confirmed implosion. And I literally wrote that on the pad the moment I heard from my naval source, very reliable source, that they had heard an event and triangulated it to the site.
That US naval intelligence of an implosion near the Titanic wreck site came just hours after the Titan set off. For James,
I guess when you're a billionaire who does super deep sea submersible shit, you make friends that are in the Navy who leak to you classified information. Dolme, thank you for the tier 1.
Cameron, it was a deeply personal tragedy. His good friend and fellow Titanic buff, P.H. Nargiole, was on board.
I had a silent moment because I knew PH very well. And PH is how we'd say it because he's French, right? It was a somber moment. And then it just transformed into this crazy thing. Everybody running around with their hair on fire when we knew right where the sub was. But nobody could admit that they didn't have the means to go down and look. So they were running all over the surface. And the entire world, waiting with bated breath, talking about 96 hours of oxygen. We all knew they were dead. We'd already hoisted a glass, a toast to our fallen comrades on Monday night.
So the Coast Guard lied?
I don't think they lied. I think they went by a procedure that was torturous for the family.
Unnecessarily?
Unnecessarily torturous for the family. I don't think they lied. They just didn't disclose. They were informed by naval intelligence that an implosion event was tracked to the coordinate of the Titanic wreck site. Now, could it have been something else? 1 in a trillion.
No, it wasn't anything else.
But the Coast Guard insists that information was inconclusive. As far as Captain Jamie Frederick is concerned, a rescue mission doesn't become a recovery mission until there's tangible evidence. Had you had at that early stage reports of naval intelligence?
Hey, Rob Rousseauers, what you doing? Hey, Rob Raiders, we are watching James Cameron making fun of the Titanic sub disaster 1 year on, and it's been awesome. I like James Cameron. I've earned even more respect for him by his utter disregard for bullshitting people. I love it. I love it. So we've been enjoying thinking about those poor billionaires being imploded. Hate to see it.
Of an implosion at the Titanic wreck site that day. Had you heard those reports?
We received the information from the Navy very early on that they had detected an anomaly in the vicinity of the site of the Titanic. But at the time, that information was at a classified level that couldn't be shared publicly, and it also was not definitive. And frankly, in the business of search and rescue, absent definitive information, we have a moral responsibility and a statutory responsibility, frankly.
I mean, I get it. They should have sat down with the family and been like, we're not optimistic. They should have just been like, it's not going to happen. Like, they're dead. They're dead. We're 99.99% sure, and we're going to confirm it, but they're dead. That's what they should have said. That's what they should have said.
Continue to search.
A kid died in there. I don't know how anyone can laugh. What do you think of the Romanovs? I guess is my question for you.
So did you genuinely feel hope that this was still potentially a rescue operation.
If there's one thing that
I don't feel bad about an 18-year-old heir of sweatshop labor in Pakistan spending $500,000 on a cockababy this experimental sub run by a libertarian who refused to follow any regulations being imploded. Like, how many levels of ideology did that person have to be far right before they got in that situation? Okay, like, at a certain point, 18-year-olds are dying all over the place, and this is a billionaire scion of sweatshop fortune in Pakistan. Like, I'm not gonna feel bad, baby. I'm gonna laugh.
I've learned in 30 years of doing search and rescue, if you don't have hope and you're conducting
I don't know, I hate billionaires as much as the next socialist, but his dad pretty much forced him to go. That kid really enjoyed all the profits of the sweatshop slaves in Pakistan for a long time. Why do you guys not seem to care about all the sweatshop slaves? I just can't understand it. I can't understand it. Like, your liberalism is just too much for me. I'm sorry. I can't get it. Maybe I'm an asshole. But the sweatshop billionaire heir dying, I can't feel bad. If it was a random 18-year-old, yes, I would feel very sad. But this specific one, nope.
Search and rescue case, you're in the wrong business, because I have seen some pretty remarkable things happen over my career.
But this time, it wasn't to be. Ed Cassano will never forget the moment his remotely operated vehicle, the Odysseus 6, spotted debris on the sea floor.
It was quiet, I remember, and it felt like immediately there was an answer with what we were addressing.
This is the guy that you're all crying about, okay? Shahzada Dawood was a Pakistani businessman and philanthropist. Philanthropist, okay. He was the eldest son of Hussain Dawood. Their paternal grandfather, Ahmed Dawood, was a prominent Mehman industrialist who had established the family business Dawood Group. And he had a master's of science in global textile marketing from Philadelphia University. Global textile marketing. You don't say. He invested in finding growth opportunities through mergers and acquisitions in textiles, fertilizers, food, and energy in public listed company. Oh, okay. They settled in the United Kingdom since 2014. And he became a Maltese citizen in 2016. I guess to avoid taxes? So this guy is probably one of the most evil people in the entire world. Okay? I want you to understand, like, if you're a socialist and you read this and you're not reading between the lines, he was probably one of the most evil pieces of shit in the entire world. If I need to prove to it more, we'll start reading more about the history of his family and how they were British Empire collaborators and how they enslaved their population of their communities and how they have 1 million sweatshops and how they're the scum of the earth. If you want, we can really go and do a deep dive. But I want to say the conclusion of what I'm saying is it's good that they died. And it's funny that they died the way they did. In the libertarian utopia they asked for. Deep dive, good one, I know. publicly listed conglomerate in Pakistan. Now, in Pakistan, chat, you may not know this, but anybody who's involved in a large corporation in Pakistan is evil, because the right-wing military dictatorship uses their military to control a lot of the economy of Pakistan. This was the first private sector venture to receive a loan from the World Bank. This guy probably drank socialist blood. The family business. I want to learn more. I want to learn more. Ahmed Dawood was one of the country's senior industrialists who was, by 1933, with his firm, the biggest supplier of imported yarn to the textile mills in India. Guys, 1933, senior industrialist. This guy is probably one of the biggest fucking collaborators with the British Empire that existed. He left India after the partition and migrated with his three brothers, Sulman Dawood. The Dawood Corporation was the first entity set up in Karachi and Manchester, UK, to start business activities in 1948. Textile mills. Oh, God. So these are, as I said before, probably the most evil people in the entire planet. Their deaths were literally good. I'm sorry, chat. I'm not gonna feel bad. And if you feel bad, I question your fucking sanity. I actually do. I question your sanity, not mine. Holy shit.
I would say in general, the feeling was professional.
The Indian textile industry is notoriously corrupt. Gandhi advocated people wearing homespun clothing. It was one of his main things. Yeah, because these were British Empire slavers.
But profound. It was obvious that what we were dealing with was a recovery, not a rescue.
Sidonie Nargilé had been desperately clinging to hope that her father, PH, could be found alive. When you learned there had been a huge implosion,
Philadelphia University graduate Shahzada Dawood among those aboard missing submersible. Oh, the richest person in Pakistan went to PU, or is that his son? A lot of rich Pakistanis go to PU. At least they did when I went in the early 2000s. It has to do with the textile programs. I think specifically textile merchandising. I asked one of my friends back then if his family owned a textile mill, and he laughed and said, no, it's a sweatshop. It's all sweatshops there. All right, let's keep going.
How did that make you reflect on the search? That in fact, you know, they likely had been dead for days.
I don't really know what to think about it because, in a way, this church. Sorry.
No, take your time.
People are saying it was Pakistan's richest man.
Take your time.
Yeah, in a way, I had hope for days more, you know, about him being alive. So, in a way, it's more difficult because it's hope for nothing. But in a way, I thought during 4 days he was still alive.
It's a sad irony for Sidonie that her
How
father's
do you feel bad for these people? Like, what goes through a liberal's brain where they're like, yeah, sure, he may have enslaved and stunted thousands of children. Their family was literally born after generations of abject exploitation, the likes of which I couldn't even understand, in conditions that that maim children every single day. But I feel bad he died in his $500,000 ticket aboard a libertarian. What? How? What? Like, what? I mean, I know I'm built differently, but can someone explain to me how this makes sense?
Session with the Titanic's watery graveyard would ultimately claim his life.
My dad could spend...
Notice that they're talking about the French dad and not the other people. Notice how they're talking about the French guy who died, who was friends with Dave. Notice they're not talking about the other family. I wonder why. Because they're really connected to the CIA and global capitalism.
All day long talking...
The first ever private World Bank loan. That's incredible. That's incredible. The first private World Bank loan went to this guy's family. That's crazy!
About the Titanic, so he really loved that.
He was Mr. Titanic to many people.
Yes, Mr. Titanic.
PH's 38th dive to the wreckage, alongside Oceangate boss Stockton Rush, would be his last.
It never made sense to me how someone with so much experience would agree to dive with Oceangate knowing the risks.
That's a tricky area for me.
Yeah.
But I have to remind myself that PH wasn't an engineer, per se. He was an explorer at heart. I also know his heart, which was to go, which was to dive.
Do you expect there'll be charges? Should someone be prosecuted?
I think that there should be some changes. They didn't have classification. Theoretically, they should not have been legally allowed to carry passengers.
This is an experimental sub. This is a dangerous environment.
Is this a case of the person who should be prosecuted is, in fact, already dead?
Yeah, I think the tragedy is he took others with him. He should have listened to the warnings. But don't we say that about the captain of Titanic?
James Cameron is now channeling his outrage at Oceangate and the investigation into a new deep-sea mission, vowing to return to the Titanic in honour of his dear friend, and to make sure Stockton Rush's failed experiment...
Flex on him! Flex on Stockton Rush!
...is relegated to the history books.
Exploration will proceed because it must, and because it's part of the human spirit, right? And, you know, a knucklehead that made a mistake shouldn't be holding everybody else back, and it won't, right? We have plans to build a sub that can go to 4,000 meters, and we will.
Wow.
And I may even go back to Titanic in that sub, just to prove the point that if it's done right, it can be done safely.
What a king.
Hello, I'm Amelia Adams. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minute segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was amazing.